So let's check out Texas's first running play in this game. We ran inside zone, and I just wanted to look at the blocking on this play. One of the characterizations of this play is that our offensive line was horrible. We'd have some mistakes in this game, and I'll be going through some of those. But we aren't incompetent, as kind of seems to be the general consensus about the line. So first, let's watch Cody Johnson on this play. One of the things that he's really struggled with this year from the fullback position is whiffing on blocks because he's coming out of control to the block. So he's picking up this backside defender, and notice that he takes the time to collect himself, be under control, engages, and then wins this block. So that's exactly what we want to see more of from CJ, and so that's progress for him. If you look across the line on this play, the offensive line is getting exactly what it wants. As Malcolm Brown receives this ball, there's no penetration across the front. All of our blockers have positioning to the left side of this play like we want. And Trey Allen even manages to get to the second level and pick up this linebacker. The one block that doesn't go our way on the cutback here is that Dominic Jones, he's getting more of a base block on this defensive end, and really he wants to have outside positioning. He gets shrugged off, and the defensive end makes the tackle in the hole. So that's one thing that we'd like to see different, rather than, a lot of the time I'm noticing that Dominic Jones is trying to base block, and usually those base blocks don't work out too well for him. He works better when he's either sealing or when he's kicking someone out. But if he's trying to base block, that's usually not a win for the offensive line. So that's one thing I'd like to see us change. And part of that is just positioning from him. He's got to get that outside positioning, and then he won't get shrugged off as easily on a play like this. Problem with the base block for him is that that's a physical battle, and he is not physically dominating enough from the tight end position to be able to win a one-on-one with a defensive end consistently. So that's kind of a problem for us. Anyway, I just wanted to look at this. We've looked at a lot of our inside zone plays so far this year. I wanted to kind of see where we were at to open this game. So physically, we're doing pretty well on the offensive line on that play. And running the ball in general early in this game, we did a pretty good job. But we'll kind of see some areas where we struggled in the first half of this game. This is the second down run from the offense. We're in 2nd and 7, and we again kind of pick up a short gain here. We're running power. You can see that Malcolm Brown ends up just running into the pile and picking up about 3 or 4 yards. I just wanted to point out on some of these plays where it looks like the offensive line didn't do its job. That's not always necessarily the whole story. First of all, look at this power play, and you look at the separation that we were able to create between the defensive end and the defensive tackle. Got a beautiful seal on the tackles here, and that kind of cuts off these backside defenders. So the two defenders that are, we really need to worry about to open this play up are these two linebackers. Snow is pulling across the formation, and he's going to pick up one of those linebackers. The issue is this free linebacker right here, and that's the reason why Malcolm Brown ends up running into the pile, is because we have a free defender. Why do we have a free defender? That has to do with DJ Grant's decision here. So this is just a mental gaffe on his part. He's assuming that this defensive end is going to be blocked down and that he should pull around Irby. Instead, Irby base blocks, so really he needs to read this block. But with his alignment, the most likely scenario is that he needs to get his assignment through the hole here. So by going around here, he basically runs himself right out of the play, leaves this defender free, and leads this play to not really going for any gain. If he goes through the hole there and picks up the linebacker through the hole, then this play's probably got a pretty good running lane. This is a few plays later in the drive. We've got a pistol look here with an unbalanced line. So this is a new look that we installed for the OU game. Something that I'd been kind of waiting to see this year was, a package that had Ash as quarterback with an unbalanced line. We've run unbalanced line from Wildcat, but we haven't run it in traditional formations yet. So let's kind of, this is the play that Fozzie broke for a pretty big gain. It wasn't particularly well blocked, but Fozzie did a great job on it. Let's kind of look at the blocking and see what happens. So first of all, notice OU's alignment here. Because they're dealing with unbalance, so we've got Hopkins and Allen both to the wide side here. OU actually is committing 3 defensive linemen to the wide side of this play. So you can see, one potential thing that does is eventually maybe give us some angles to work on the backside. If you think about it, there's not one defensive tackle to the backside of this play, whereas we have our guard and our center on this side with both with angles. So that's potentially somewhere where we could work later in the game. But we're running flex outside zone on this play. A couple things to point out. One, Allen's got a pretty tough assignment here because he's got to try to get a pin block on this defensive tackle. So he really does a great job of that. He gives up a little bit of ground in order to get outside, but then he does eventually get outside. Espinoza does a great job of, this is something that Espinoza does in general really well when he pulls. So his pulling lane gets kind of some traffic in it, and what he does is he helps Allen get his body in position by kind of pushing him along. The one block that doesn't go particularly well here is Hopkins' block. He loses control of the defensive end a little bit later in this play, and that keeps us from really setting the edge on this play. But what Whitaker does that's great, and he's been doing this more and more lately, is you can see he dips in here, and that forces a commitment from containment, and then he breaks the containment. So that's a great run by Whitaker. He did that a couple times in this game. Kind of single-handedly turn a play into a positive gain, even when it wasn't the best blocking. Again, you can see Allen's seal here is really important to creating enough of a traffic jam to create the one-on-one situation we want. So again, some good things happening early in this game for us in the running game. I also just wanted to point this play out. A lot of people, sort of were like, well, none of our trick plays worked. Well, this is a form of a specialized play. OU hadn't seen this look before, and it doesn't have like a double reverse or anything like that, but the unbalanced look from the offensive line did create some problems for them. So then we come back, and the next play we're running this formation that's empty set with 4 wide here, and we end up running quarterback power from this that is horribly blown up in the backfield. So let's kind of see why this play gets blown up. If you watch the blocking here on power, Allen goes to pick up the linebacker. Walters is pulling. Nobody blocks the defensive end, and he makes the play in the backfield, predictably. So why did this happen? Well, it's a communication breakdown, really. Someone made a mistake on this play. It was either Allen or Walters on this play. There's 2 different ways you could block this play logically for a quarterback power. One would be to have, kind of turn it into a trap play and have Walters come across and trap this defensive end. So he's going to pull, and not a skip pull, but just a normal pull, and then kick this defensive end out. The other would be to turn this sort of into an ISO play in a way, and so the tackle here will block this defensive end out, and your guard will pull through. Since we hardly ever trap on our power play, I have to imagine that the way this is supposed to be executed is Allen is supposed to block this play out. But so we just get an assignment breakdown here, just complete mental breakdown, not at all a physical execution problem. If you look at this play, if we do block that player, this play is wide open for Ash to run the ball. There's not any linebackers who can get to him. The first player who can really make the play on him is either the corner who's out here or this safety. So it's an easy 8-yard gain at least if we just play our assignments correctly. So that puts us in a 2nd and long and an obvious passing down. And you can see we're running an empty set here, which I don't necessarily like, but because it just gives you fewer protection options. They bring in a late blitzer from the outside. Our wide receiver identifies that there's a blitzer, there's an extra man, and McCoy gets under pressure, gets sacked, and we give up the fumble. So a lot of people blame the offensive line in a situation like this, but just look at what happens here. When OU brings in this extra defender, there are now 6 pass rushers for a 5-man protection. If that's the case, there's only one way you can deal with that. Well, 2 ways. One is that you can audible out of that play. So that's on the quarterback to identify that there are more men than the protection can handle, and either change the protection, so maybe keep another offensive player in the protection, or audible to a different play. The other thing they can do is get the ball out quickly in the quick game to a wide receiver. But if we go back and watch this play from the wide angle, when McCoy takes his 3-step, there is no player looking for the ball. He needs to be getting the ball out now. And the only player even stemming his route is Shipley. So that's one thing that we saw consistently in this game is, you see a wide receiver identify that there's an extra blitzer, his man's blitzing. Well, then you should have a hot route on. And specifically, if he's blitzing from your area, then you should be sitting down somewhere over here. And that should be the hot route. Instead, it's like we're running routes as if we have a 5-step drop going, and there's no way we ever get a 5-step drop in this situation. So our passing game is really out of sync at this point, partly because it's hard to get your passing game in sync if your quarterbacks can't identify when to check out of a protection or to alter the protection, and it's also difficult if your receivers can't identify when they should be running hot routes. So those 2 things are really problematic for us at this stage, and that's why when we're in obvious passing downs that we're at a severe disadvantage with the offense right now. OU really revealed kind of what stage we're at with the quick game, and I would say in terms of the balance of our offense, that's the area that we need to develop the most to be well-rounded. What makes more sense, though, is for us to emphasize the running game and identify through that right now, and discourage defenses from overplaying through the running game rather than, when we put ourselves in obvious passing downs, that's not going to be a win for our offense right now, ever. This is a delayed counter we ran toward the end of the first quarter. Just going to check it out full speed. See if Fozzie makes a great play to turn this into a 10-yard gain or a 12-yard gain. Let's watch this on the replay and see why it took such a big effort on his part to make this happen. So we're basically running inside zone blocking here, and then we're going to plan the counter off of it. And the idea is to kind of create a seal and take advantage of, go back to the original angle, you can see that once we create this seal with the defensive end and the crash in their defensive end here, we get a big off-tackle hole here. And once this defensive end crashes for inside zone rules, he belongs to the tackle, but DJ Grant still thinks that's his assignment. And so if we watch this from the other angle, we'll see him come around and, then he just sort of creates a seal here, isn't really doing anything, lets the linebacker go free, and he should have picked up that linebacker. So him and the tackle should have sort of switched assignments on that play, because once that defensive end crashed, he became the tackles, and DJ Grant's assignment should have been the linebacker. Instead, the linebacker comes free, and Fozzie has to make a great play to pick up the gain here. If that doesn't happen, then Fozzie's got a pretty good running lane there with just a safety to beat. So we come back the next play and we run this delayed draw. See, this draw is great at sort of punishing the aggression from the defensive ends. OU's defensive end gets way upfield, so their corner is making a break here to try to be the contained player. So Davis misses his initial assignment here on the corner, but we're getting a one-on-one between Malcolm Brown and the corner trying to play and contain, and that's a win for Malcolm Brown, especially with the amount of space that we've created here with our draw blocking. This is great blocking from the offensive line. So the one thing that, really could have gone a lot better on this play is once Davis misses this assignment, you'd love to see him turn upfield and pick up the next guy downfield. Let Malcolm Brown work. You're not going to do anything productive by turning around and chasing this assignment. If he does that, if he picks up this safety, then there's no question that this play goes for a touchdown. This safety is the only player between Malcolm Brown and the end zone. So that's a touchdown-saving tackle right there that he makes. So we're getting improvement from the extra blockers, but definitely OU revealed, we still have a long way to go there. And you just like to see guys make logical decisions in space. One little decision like that from the wide receiver makes a huge difference. But overall, we're seeing the offense was getting some things working here toward the end of the first quarter. So let's take a look at one of the uglier plays for the offense. This is from the Wildcat, and we had several plays that went for a loss from the Wildcat in this game because of outside pressure. This is one of them. OU's bringing a corner blitz here, which basically in this game we showed no ability to account for the corner blitz. And that's, one of the things with putting a lot of different players at quarterback is they're not going to have the ability to check out of plays. Now, earlier in the game, they had brought an outside blitz, and we were able to still pick up the first down with DJ Monroe by running inside of the blitz. This play, I think, is actually intended to take advantage of the same idea. See what happens here, though, is we end up with two unblocked defenders in the backfield, and Fozzie has no chance to make a play. So let's try to understand why that happened. The first reason that happened is, this defensive end is intended to be left initially unblocked. You can see that Allen is using what's called an arc technique here. The intention of an arc technique is actually to influence the defensive end. It doesn't work in this case because there's a corner blitz. He's not a contained player. If he was a contained player, then he would probably widen with the arc technique. The reason that we're arcing there is that I believe in this play, Grant should be coming across the formation to try to trap that defensive end and kick him out. And widening him will kind of increase the size of the gap between him and the defensive tackle. And the intention is for Fozzie to take this ball and run in that gap created, that C gap that would be created. Instead what happens is, with the corner blitzing, what should happen is Allen should change his assignment to actually trap or kick out this cornerback who's blitzing, handle that, even if he has to give up ground. Grant, I think, really does the wrong thing on this play. I think he should be coming across the formation, like I said. So then he would handle the defensive end, and then no one would have this linebacker, but you'd have picked up those two guys, and you'd be in a pretty good position. What absolutely can never happen is just to ignore an outside blitzer like this. So Allen just kind of stepping around the defensive end and then ignoring the blitzer, you want your offensive linemen to try to take their assignments, but you also want them to think logically in different situations. And we're not comfortable enough in our assignments to sort of have a clear head when a defense presents us with something we're not expecting to see. Which is somewhat to be expected. But at the same time, you want guys out there who are going to make decisions on the fly that are sound decisions. Allen had one more series after this series at offensive tackle, and then it seemed like he was benched for the rest of the game. So either that or he was injured. It's hard to tell, but it seems like he was benched based on the depth chart changes, and part of that is the mental mistakes that he made in this game. So we open the next drive with a power play, and you can see that OU's got 5 on the line, and then they're bringing pressure at corner blitz. So they're in an under front here, and That means with this alignment, if you look at this defensive end, he's lined up inside of the tight end. So what Irby's going to do, the way that the defensive end aligned has a lot to do with where the power is going to end up being run. With him being aligned clearly inside of the tight end is going to try to seal him from the outside, kind of push him down, and the tight end will become part of the down blocking in the power play. The problem is that despite his alignment, Irby still tries to base block him and then turn him inside. And one of the things that really needs to change about the way that we're blocking with our tight ends is that when we go for a seal, we need to actually just take the outside position and sometimes give up a little bit of penetration in order to maintain outside position. Base blocking, what we end up doing is put the defensive end in a place of decision making because he can physically control the tight end. The only tight end who ever has any success base blocking for us is Dominic Jones, and his success rate isn't especially high from a base blocking situation. So it's really critical that we start putting our tight ends in a better sealing situation when they do seal. So as you can see here, once that tight end gets in our C gap, we're trying to do so much off-tackle running. If you're not controlling the defensive ends, it's not going to work. And so this is a play where you can see we get stuck for essentially no gain because we don't control that defensive end. He's the critical piece to getting the power to work. So I want to look at this, another concept that we ran from the pistol unbalanced look. This time we're running basically a zone read play. But we end up with two defenders in the backfield, and Brown gets dropped for a loss. So let's try to see, kind of why that happened the way it did and what we could do in the future so it won't be repeated. What happens here is, if we look at what we're doing on the line, this is really kind of inventive. We've got an unbalanced look, and then for the quarterback keeper on the zone read, we pull the guard for the sweep to lead block for the sweep. And then we're reading the defensive end here, so we're supposed to leave him unblocked. So Ash reads that he's going outside with the pull, so he's going to hand off. The problem here is on the backside of this play where we're running inside zone. The inside zone runs into trouble when the defensive tackles are running a slant against the action of the inside zone. And what happens here is normally with inside zone rules, if you have a defender slant across you, then you might help with him a little bit, but basically he becomes the responsibility of the man to your left. So let's kind of see what happens between Kelly and Walters here. They have a defender slanting across them, and they combo him, but essentially he becomes Walters' responsibility. Walters is the one who's responsible for getting his hat to the left of the helmet of that defender. Well, that's normally how Espinoza operates in inside zone. He's an interior lineman on inside zone. He's a playside lineman. And so when he gets a defender slanting across him, he's used to having help on the backside with that defender. In this concept, he doesn't. And so we're putting him in a position that he's not normally in. Basically, he would be like a tackle, a formation tackle on these inside zone rules. So he lets this defensive end go, thinking he's got someone helping him behind him, but he doesn't. And so as a result, the defensive tackle comes free and has a straight line right to Malcolm Brown in the backfield. This is totally a great concept. If Espinoza ends up picking up this defensive tackle like he should, then you can look at how this concept has created a huge gap in the defense right up the seam. So the action of this play, the inside zone to this side and the pulling guard to this side, have created a divide in the defense. And that's sort of the intention, that we want to exploit that, or we want to exploit the sweep to the short side here. That doesn't happen. And so, one of the things that we're seeing here is we maybe put our linemen in a few too many positions or had them doing a little bit too much in this game. It's a really delicate balance that a good coordinator needs to try to strike, where they're developing their players, they're continuing to incorporate new concepts, keeping diversity in the playbook to keep the defense on their heels, but then also giving their players enough reps in those concepts so that they can execute at a high level and execute against looks that they're maybe not initially expecting. And you can see Harsin, he's done a really great job up to this stage of incorporating diversity and putting our offense in good positions. In this game, they seemed a little bit overwhelmed, and the execution wasn't where it should be because I think they encountered a lot more defensively than they were expecting. So that'll be an interesting balance to see going forward is, do we continue to just incorporate a ton of plays and still struggle with some execution and mental cues like this? Or do we simplify a little bit going forward, focus on some core concepts, and then keep a little bit of diversity to get the defense in certain situations?